Hello. Welcome. Welcome. Thank you for your patience. The smack of the hand. Okay. So I am going to hide your last name and your first name. Now I shall present and I shall meditate. Okay. Let's show the chart. Chart. Your wonderful birth chart. Divine birth chart. All right. So many interesting things. Let's start with your rising. Why don't we? So it's very rare for someone to have Uranus rising. At the moment of your birth, directly east was 15 degrees of Sagittarius in the tropical zodiac, and 2 degrees above it was Uranus. So as your ascendant relates to your personality, to the human, the vehicle of this lifetime, the rental car, when you have a planet conjunct it, it almost becomes kind of like you're a Sag rising / Aquarius, because Uranus is linked with Aquarius. Of course, they're not exactly the same, but just kind of as like a big picture metaphor. So let me move this right here. Better. Why isn't it? Hold on, sorry, 1 second. Power cord. Okay. Backrest, please. Okay, good. So, already right off the bat, when we look at your North Node, also, I always have to have that in mind. It's in Taurus, South Node in Scorpio, conjunct the Moon, 12th house. Wow. So a big karmic theme already is around peace. You being here to find peace within your body and within your world, on a metaphoric, abstract level, and just in general, So if you consider that people who have the South Node represents their kind of like past lives, karmic tendency. If you consider that for you, there's a high likelihood that, with the 12th house Scorpio South Node, that it was not easy in past lives, right? There could have been some past life trauma is very common there. So when we have the North Node in the sign of Taurus, which is about heaven on. Sorry, 1 second. My iPad that I haven't touched in probably 2 weeks or 3 weeks. I said iPad lost. I have to unplug my. Okay. This and let me actually check. I just want to make sure I didn't mess up the audio. Test. Test. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32, 33, 34, 35, 36, 37, 38, 39, 40, 41, 42, 43, 44, 45, 46, 47, 48, 49, 50, 51, 52, 53, 54, 55, 56, 57, 58, 59, 60, 61, 62, 63, 64, 65, 66, 67, 68, 69, 70, 71, 72, 73, 74, 75, 76, 77, 78, 79, 80, 81, 82, 83, 84, 85, 86, 87, 88, 89, 90, 91, 92, 93, 94, 95, 96, 97, 98, 99, 100, 101, 102, 103, 104, 105, 106, 107, 108, 109, 110, 111, 112, 113, 114, 115, 116, 117, 118, 119, 120 I'm gonna just plug in this mic. I don't like doing it because it's kind of annoying and heavy, but sometimes I like to walk around and stuff, but I can always do that. I can always go back and forth between mic and non-mic. All right. Only if it sounds good. Okay, so switch to microphone. Okay. Check, check, check. Do you hear me when I'm like this? Do you hear me when I'm like this? Check, check, check. Do you hear me when I'm like this? Check, check. Check, check, check. See, sorry. I just want to see if they can catch because it's not. Okay. So if I lean back like this, can you still hear me? What the heck? One more test. One more test. One more test. One more test. Oh, I see what you just did. There and there. Okay. Last test, last test, last test, last test. That's a little bit loud. Okay, this is my final thing. Okay, cool. All right, let's go back to the share the screen. All righty. So yeah, when we have a placement like this, right? When we have a rising in Sag, life is an adventure. Sagittarius is a sign of knowledge, of wisdom, of high wisdom. Ooh, we have a guest birthday girl, my famous cat astrologer. She only comes during a special reading, so here she is. Esme at Esme Cat Astrology, EZME Cat Astrology on Instagram. Nearly 4,000 followers. She's still in my backup account, but this, I know this sounds weird, but this actually works. It's quite. Hey, birthday girl, stop. Look at the chart. Do what you always do. Tell me what Esme. Look at the chart and tell me something. Why are you so nervous? No, you do your work. You pay your rent around here. Look at the chart, Esme. You're not working, Esme. Okay, that was really weird. That's the first time she has refused to work. Maybe she'll come back. All right. Well, anyways. So yeah, when you have Uranus rising, like you are here to individualize, right? You are here to really not be like other people. And as a Sag rising, your life is really, really, it's all about adventure, so it's all about going out in the world and kind of like anything is possible energy. So Sag risings are fun people. They want to really just experience a lot, and they're just exciting. You're just a very exciting person to be around. I have no doubts. No doubts. The thing about Uranus rising is that people with that, they can be a little bit shocking to some more conservative types, right? They can have that shock value. But the thing I love about Uranus rising is they just do not give a shit. like, like they are just like, you know what? You're gonna judge me anyways. So I'm just gonna be me because and they're so good at that. It's a skill, not this, it's a skill to not care, to really just like not give a shit about other people's view of you. So I think that they do it really, really well. Um, so yeah, Jupiter rules your chart from the Aquarius third house. So, there could also be something there about about writing and communicating, and like with your sun there also in Aquarius. Just like I think that the third house is about thought, it's about writing, it's about communicating. So I just imagine that, you know, there's a lot of there, there's a major importance when it comes to you finding your lane, finding an outlet when it comes to these things, right? Like that is massive, 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 massive. So that the sun in Aquarius and the moon in Scorpio. So this you have sun square moon. This is a challenging aspect, as you can see. Your sun is a square 90-degree angle, and it's also square the south node. So that's very, very interesting. You have Mercury and Sun square south node. So these are very significant. So why are they significant? Because squares to the nodes, right? The nodes are south node is the been there, done that. The north node is where you're trying to go karmically in this lifetime, right? It's like the metaphoric mountain never climbed in past lives, that you're trying to get up. So when there's squares to the south nodes, those are karmic skip steps. And me, my specialty is karmic astrology. So that is one of the most important things. Because we don't consciously remember this stuff, right? It's past life. And I'll get into those, but you know, really at the end of the day, it's just really important to be able to like for you to be able to kind of understand that from your past lives, there's also been a lot of introjects and self-limiting beliefs that most likely come, or like, where's your Chiron? Is it in Virgo or Gemini? Is it in Virgo or Gemini? Let's choose Gemini. Gemini, boom, look at me. I didn't see it. I just knew. So yeah, okay, so you see I'm making parallels here. All right, check this out. So let me actually get my psychic energy going. All right, so this is what I sense and what I see. I feel a deep soul intelligence. A no bullshit type person, a healer, compassionate person, right? Sometimes bad things happen to the best people. And with the Mercury and Sun square the nodes, and the Sun square Moon, you are on a literal hero's journey in this lifetime. That is what Sun square South node is. It's really that intense, right? It's like, like literally like a huge central part of your current life energy and life purpose, right? Is to resolve issues symbolized by this nodal square, right? So when we look at the 3rd to the 12th to the 6th,
we see how, you, by you going from 12 to 6, right? You are in this lifetime, it's about being brave when it comes to um not being stuck in like the dreamland when it comes to your biggest goals and aspirations as a healer, as as someone like in terms of making like being of service to the world and making the world a better place, right? And if it's not that, right, the service part, just in terms of your goals and aspirations, right? um 12th house south nodes, sometimes they, there can be some issues around that. There can be some issues around that, um that self-confidence, right? And when we have this square with Mercury, we'll talk about that in a sec, how that can create a lot of that second guessing, and you know but then when we parallel that to Chiron, which is the pain in Gemini, which is, that people with this, a lot of times when they're growing up in this current lifetime, they feel unintelligent, or they feel like they distrust their thought process because of feedback they get from their early environment, right? So that feedback, and of course, then you heal and you realize, okay, I am smart as fuck. But you know when you're someone who's an Aquarius, right? Aquarius Mercury especially with its sextile to Uranus, that's a genius energy. That's someone who's ahead of their time, right? So it's very commonplace for someone with that to perhaps yeah, like literally been someone who thought deeper and more ahead of their parents, but for whatever reason, they were, like it's, imagine if like you're a kid and you're already more evolved than your parents, like you're having ideas about things that they've just shut down, and then you're made to feel kind of like, you're made to look like you're not as, I don't know, like you kind of like, if you just think differently than everyone, right? So then you kind of like internalize that message of like, oh, maybe something's wrong with my way of thinking, and then it's this lifelong healing journey to move away from that. So the real importance here is big time around that hero's journey, and by having like an ability to really communicate, about like communicate with just with the people around you, like that is of utmost importance. um so yeah, if we think of like the 6th to the 12th, and that's about service. One second. What? No. Use use the pink ones.
Yeah.
I don't want these going outside.
And it's Karina's part of the bill. You guess.
So yeah. If we think of like how these two are in the middle, the third, it's really about you being able to give a voice to this more esoteric kind of hidden side, this very mystical side. It's about giving that voice, right? um so that's extremely important. But back to like the square with the sun, it's just like, it makes it a very critical lifetime. And it's sun in Aquarius, it's all about being different. So you have like Aquarius Uranus on your ascendant, and then you have Aquarius on your sun and your Mercury. So there's a big, and then you have Jupiter in Aquarius, so there's a big need to accept there's a big need to accept your inner weirdness, your inner eccentricity, right? That's super important. um if that isn't done, there can be lots of suffering, right? So it really is experienced in this lifetime as kind of like like a core part of the individuality, and the general sense of personal meaning is really, it really echoes that kind of Joseph Campbell's hero's journey, right? Having to like really create or maintain a personal vision in isolation of like having like parents or others, like it can even be in conflict of others' views for what you're supposed to do, right? So there's this big challenge to individuate, and that's also with sun square moon. That tends to mean that the parents, oftentimes there's divorce, right? Just oftentimes there's a divorce, but it can also really mean that the message, if there wasn't a divorce, it could mean that the overall message from each parent, right, very different one from the other. So yeah. Let's see here. So what happens like also with that is that it's like almost people who have sun square moon, they're not supposed to be like parent A or parent B, like they're really like it's another indication that they're really supposed to be their own self, right? And follow, that's the essence of Aquarius, right? So yeah. Yeah. So then we speak about this Mercury thing, right? And how that can really create someone who, someone who might just have had certain cognitive, I guess, certain beliefs about themselves that not good, like self-limiting beliefs, interjects of what they feel like they're willing to do, or not willing, or what they feel like they're able, they're truly able to accomplish, and who they're truly able to be. So that can be quite challenging, very much so. But yeah, so there can also be just like unresolved material around like the mental life, right? So it could be, a lot of times it's like overly rigid thinking, like that keeps someone stuck in kind of like for example, in the 12th house south node, it could be that self-limiting beliefs, like you were like this mega creative person, right? But different beliefs about yourself, right? And what you felt you're able to do kept you away from fully like doing the sixth house north node. Is about understanding that it takes a step-by-step process to get to where you want to get. So it could have been the case that that was just it was just difficult in that respect. Let's think here. Yeah, so sometimes it can be like, just like the mind like lacking discrimination, That's definitely a possibility. And other times it can be, just like, yeah, like the internalized messages, right? That end up like undermining the strength of the personality. Internalized shame, internalized guilt that's come from past lives, right? So being able to let go of that, figure out what that is, how has it shown up in your life, right? Like, what self-limiting beliefs do I have? Where do they come from? Sometimes there's even communication issues or trusting other people's opinions too much, and that led you into, like different lies or conflicting views of the nature of the truth could have had very profound consequences in prior lifetimes, which I wouldn't be surprised about based on what I'm seeing, right? So, so 22, okay. So the midheaven is also an Icaea squared. So that's saying that like karmically there is an imbalance between you as a between your inner life and your external life, right? There's some type of imbalance there. So, that's obviously important to I guess get under control and to really in this lifetime, yeah, just really be, yeah, really have that balance, not put too much into your dharma outer life, and ignore like the inner life, because your sun is on the IC, so that is really a strong link to childhood. Your early life was very important, right? And it just makes it so you have a very strong relationship with your ancestors too, for sure. So yeah. Yeah. Let's see. So yeah, it's very obvious to me that you weren't able to be your authentic self for whatever reason in past lives. Because of that, it undermined the strength of your personality, the strength of your ability to truly kind of go out there and just be you. So in this life, you have all this Aquarius Uranus energy in order for you to not give a fuck. It's there for a reason, for you to just go with the flow. And in that process, you're here to truly find your authentic self, right? And for whatever happened in the past lives, like basically it pushed you away from that. Now, as an Aquarius Scorpio, you have this amazing creativity. One of my favorite artists has that, and I've seen several very creative people who have that combination. Like I said, Sun square Moon, you have a chip on your shoulder. A lot of times you don't feel like like you have that real support from mom and dad. So, and with the moon in the 12th house conjunct Saturn, it's very, very, there's a pretty high probability, potential, whatever you want to call it, that that something in that relationship is difficult, right? Because the moon is usually reflects the mother, right? In the 12th house, a lot of times there's just like tough karma with the mother, and Saturn conjunct moon is a very difficult aspect, right? Because the moon, obviously, especially moon and Scorpio people, the moon is your emotions. It's like it's not what you want, it's what you need, right? So the moon in Scorpio has this need, right, to be authentic, like very, very authentic. To be able to share all of its, everything, with the people around it, all the secrets, whatever, right? So it's like, picking the right people is of the utmost importance, for a Scorpio moon, especially with, for everyone, obviously, but especially Scorpio moon. So, the fact that it's with Saturn on the moon is really difficult because it makes emotional expression, it makes it really hard to be vulnerable. It creates all kinds of restrictions around emotional and the ability to really, really share your feelings, right? First 30 years till the Saturn return, right? That's the real hard part. But it just isn't, and a lot of times it comes from a mother that was very very strict, or very strict and kind of controlling. That's what I've seen a lot. So there's lots of healing that's needed around that, right? And a lot of the times there's boundaries needed with the mother. And sometimes the moon is the dad. Like, it's kind of hard to know in this today's society, but overall, it just isn't, it's one of the harder aspects to have, right? And even the fact of the matter is that Saturn and Pluto are in the 12th house, right? So just those two by themselves in that house is difficult because it creates all kinds of like there's a huge potential, like for like Pluto in the 12th is massive, right? Because it creates someone who is here for the ultimate spiritual test, right? The ultimate kind of like they are really, really like, all right, it's time to take that big leap, right? I always say, like, it's off the solid consensus reality of Saturn into the the 12th house is Neptune. So it's a metaphor of like jumping off the cliff of Saturn that represents the material reality of the world we live in. Everything's material and blah blah blah, non-spiritual, blah blah blah, into the ocean of Neptune, the endless ocean of Neptune, which represents the interconnectedness of everything. So, but there can be a lot of like, it can be very, very difficult, but that shows someone that has deep spiritual ambitions in this lifetime. But Saturn the 12th, so after 30, it can be a lot easier to get into like spirituality and create that spiritual relationship with the self. However, before then, there can be all types of what's the word, phobias, right? Phobias that kind of prevent one from fully going into this world. So it's really about finding that transcendent, not transcendent, belief system, right? And it's all about surrender, so you can really participate with the wholeness of life, right? And also, like, dissolving barriers between individual and collective unconscious, right? And aligning your own personal energy with the collective energy, the divine energy. So it's really about stepping out of the self and into the world of transpersonal forces, right? But what's difficult is that that loss of control, that letting go can generate anxiety, right? Definitely. So, that's what makes it so difficult, right? That's what makes it so difficult. But it's all about, yeah, just letting go off that cliff into that infinite ocean and just trusting, right? So sometimes, like with this, it's kind of similar, like a fear of death, right? And sometimes people with this will cling to, like, whatever represents like individual power to them. That's like materialistic potentially, right? Um, so yeah, there is a lot, like if one is able to truly surrender in this lifetime of Pluto in the 12th, space and time, like literally, it's so life changing. But it's so, and you get so rewarded, right? So the polarity point is hold on, sorry, 1 second. I have to answer this quick message. Sorry. Okay. Okay, good. All right. Julio. Okay, let me see one thing. Okay. All right. So, yeah. So basically, when we talk about, this 12th, the thing with Saturn conjunct Moon in Scorpio, a Scorpio Moon is very intense. It's very much like there's a lot of darkness, and people with that, like they definitely need to learn about letting go, surrender, which is a huge theme of your chart. Surrendering into this authentic version of yourself, right? That's what it is. But yeah, like the Saturn on the Moon, it can really burn the emotional life, and it can bring lots of sadness and melancholy, right? So it wouldn't be uncommon for a Scorpio Moon conjunct Saturn exact degree to struggle with depression, right? And have to really work hard and the thing about the 12th house is that the way to alleviate all this is through devoting your life to service somewhere, really, really being about helping other people. So, yeah, it's just, like the importance of building that feeling of emotional security when young is extremely important. And but yeah, like sometimes it could be very, very difficult to like trust with the Scorpio Moon conjunct Saturn. And the primal urge for emotional nurturing, does rely a lot on other people. Um, so a lot of people with this will have adapted by learning coping mechanisms, right? If when they were young they felt very alone, and then their adult life, this can result in like very objective or even unemotional responses and reactions within their relationships, right? Does that make sense? Um, so it can come down to like being too strict with yourself. Um, that's something that can happen. But overall, the best of Moon with Saturn is aiming for emotional security and overcoming shyness, and lack of self-respect. Those are like the life goals with that, right? And it comes through positive reinforcement and leaving your comfort zone, and just taking risks with opening up, right? Whatever you need to do, in terms of the skills needed to maintain long-term intimate relationships, right? Which is really about like overcoming the fear. It's kind of similar to that jumping into that sea, overcoming that fear of being vulnerable, of really showing yourself. And once you do it once, it's just like people. I've never been skydiving, but what I hear is that once you do it once, it's just easier after that. And I've definitely been cliff jumping, and you're scared as hell, and then you do it once, and boom, and then it just gets a lot easier. So yeah, like that like being able to show your emotions is the game changer. And it's really, really good as like when you like if you have kids, like this is really, really good for being an amazing mother, right? But yeah, like so kind of with Scorpio in Aquarius, you see that the difficulty is found in the fact that this so we talk about your big three, but really Sun and Moon, to try to understand like, okay, how do these work together, how do they not work together, right? Because it's like when you have a square with these two, it's like trying to feed, like you have to feed both mouths. So the Scorpio side, it's in the 12th house, it's a lot more hidden, it's a lot more introverted. It's kind of down to sit around, maybe meditate all day, be more of a homebody, not really want to trust too many people, like very, very careful with who you trust. And then the Aquarius side is very social. It's all about friends, it's all about community, it's all about humanity. It's all about like, the future and and it's very open. So these are two parts of you, and you have to figure out how to make both work. So my thing, I think that writing or some kind of journaling or some kind of outlet could, some kind of therapeutic, like of sorts, type of outlet could be very, 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 very good, right? So, and that's because of the third house, right? So then the way that the Sag, so obviously the Uranus rising part plays really well with the Aquarius, and so is the Sag. So it's like your ascendant and your moon are on the same team, and they even or this, your ascendant and your sun, and they even sextile each other. So yeah, so it can be a little bit difficult because the moon is not what people see, right? It's hidden. So you could probably, like, you're more like very sensitive Scorpio side, that can be hurt quite easily, and even somewhat vengeful, potentially, right? It really is hidden. So people, I'm sure you've heard this, like, people, when they get to know you, they're like, oh, I did not know you were so sensitive, or you were so emotionally intense and deep. It's not that but because, like, having the Sag rising with Uranus, it's not necessarily going to make you come off like superficial or anything, but like, not as deep as if you were a Scorpio rising, and that's what your true nature is, right? So it's very interesting. So then, okay, so Saturn is coming from one parent, from both parents, because your sun is square Saturn. So that is very interesting. Show my face. Okay. So having this is very, very interesting. Because basically, like, the sun square Saturn, there's a lot of difficulty with self-expression as well. And it can kind of it can really, really make it difficult to in the first 30 years, it can really create lots of setbacks in terms of you on your real karmic, like, movement forward, right? And okay, that's what I thought. Yeah. So yeah, lots of tests. So lots of very successful people have this, right? And then also, would that make it? No. But yeah, like, there's usually, like, lots of self-esteem issues early in life due to, like, criticism from other people, usually like the father or authority male figures. And it creates someone who's, like, too hard on themselves, right? And overly self-critical, poor self-esteem, stuff like that. So it's really important not to judge yourself too harshly, because then other people kind of do the same and reinforce that, right? But because of this, you're someone who grows up, who definitely grew up faster, right? Early hard lessons is key with this one, right? And but with every Saturn aspect, so this is very important. This is your Saturn return was probably life-changing in the years after. You're probably feeling so much lighter energetically, because your moon, the two biggest parts of your chart, sun and moon, are one's conjunct, one's square Saturn, right? And the conjunction is exact degree. So definitely do not feel any shame of anything that happened in the first 3 years, because all that shit was meant to happen. You of all people, like with the double Saturn. So yeah, usually there are lots of setbacks, like 3 steps forwards, 5 steps back. You're like, what the fuck, universe? Fuck. But then after the Saturn return, all that bullshit, that 5 steps back goes away, and you still have that grit, that determination, you know? So a lot of the most successful people, like so many people have had have this, right? And you hear tons of famous people who grew up with bad parents and difficult situations, right? That is very common with Sun square Saturn. And then they become these mega successes. And just like in your chart, you're meant to really blaze your own path. So, okay, moving forward. So Mercury, sextile, Uranus, that is a potential for like really, really like the fact that it's, like I said before, it's in Aquarius, just outside the box, very like rapid speech, rapid mind, downloads coming to you, and very, very ahead of your time. So that goes to like that whole Chiron and Gemini energy. So you're here. Also, a big part of your life is to really, really love the eccentric, and the weird parts of yourself. The weird, and I mean weird in a good way, right? Because Jupiter's also there in Aquarius, and that makes one a mega what's the word, humanitarian, someone who cares about like really making the world a better place. So and someone who's ahead of their time, and someone who sees the future, futurist, someone who's very curious about how they can kind of like maneuver themselves in their lives to really like they want to, like someone who's able to have that intuitive sense to sense, okay, like okay, what do I need to, how do I need to position myself to to really, really be ahead. And speaking of getting ahead, Mars in Aries, but square Neptune. Ooh, that is interesting. And Venus is conjunct Mars, right? In Aries. So that's very, very, very interesting, because as a Mars in Aries, shit, you won't hear me. I'm gonna go back to the microphone was. Maybe we'll go back to it after. Oh, what? Okay, never mind. I thought it.
Okay. We have it here. I just want to go get a drink. So yeah, Mars in Aries is like the ultimate like power. Not like in that type of like bad power, like power, like control power freak type vibe. Nothing like that. But people with that, they there's that potential tendency to like it's basically like the best Mars place. Let's just be fucking honest, right? There ain't no better placement than that. Now with that said, um I think that one thing with Mars and Aries is that sometimes they can be a little bit overly rambunctious. I'm like pulling a drink out of my fridge, and there's like, how the fuck did that happen? And how all the drink spilled. That's cool, I guess. No? Whatever. Whatever. But yeah, so Mars and Aries is very, very just like going after its, it's just super, super action oriented, and it just goes after what it wants. How else can you say it? Mars and Aries goes after what it wants. So one thing about it is that sometimes it doesn't think so much about like, it'll think after the cause. It can be like very, 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 very assertive, right? It just goes. But it's in its dignity, so that's where you want your Mars. The fact that it squares Neptune, everyone that has Mars square Neptune, they have to watch out. Like most of my clients that I have with this, um, they don't, they tend to not, um, they tend to not use any substances, but like if you actually look at it, which is interesting, that's been my clients. So I'm always telling people like, look, like, the tendency is stay the fuck away from substances because you can get poisoning, right? But like nearly every single person that I've read who's had this has been like, yeah, like, my dad or my mom or whoever, someone close to me was really into this stuff, and I just like stayed away from it. That's been my you know, experience with it. Okay. Trying to see how much caffeine I rarely drink energy drinks, but I want them now. I don't know. I've had these forever. I don't even know what this Volta. Volta. I want like less caffeine if possible. Sorry. This one is there it is. No, it isn't. Fuck. Okay, so they're all the same. They're all the same. Okay. So yeah, Mars square Neptune. Um, it's super creative. So being able to channel that could be very good. But the thing about your Neptune is it's in the second house. So Mars in the second house can create a lot of fog, right? Abstract fog around how someone views their self-worth, right? So it's challenging for sure. It's definitely challenging because but like the key with your Neptune is that the more that you like make like subscribe to kind of more spiritual values, the better, right? Let's go back to this mic. So yeah, the more you do that, the better. Okay, I just always have to check. Check. Perfect. Okay. So yeah, the more you subscribe to spiritual values in your life, the better. If not, it can kind of make one feel a little bit off in that respect, But also there's this real importance for you to, take your dream life, right? All that 12th house stuff and implement your dream life into your everyday life, into your personality, into your mission, right? But the second house Saturn is very typically like they are unrealistic in the assessment of their own self-worth, right? And sometimes it can give like a lack of clarity surrounding money and possessions. So it's really important to link like the monetary values with the spiritual values. Now, the fact that Aries Mars is a go-getter, like fucking go-getter, right? So good for sports too. So it's like you definitely are someone. Did I just do something? Just press the button on accident.
You're definitely someone who is, definitely should have a physical outlet. Like Aries, Mars, all should have a physical outlet. But and also you probably have a very high sex drive. Aries, Mars, and Venus conjunct 1 degree away. I don't really like to talk about sexual stuff because I'm a creepy dude, but I'm just telling you your chart and I have no idea how you look. Nothing about you. Um, so yeah. So yeah, the Mars square Neptune, more about that. It can make it difficult to truly trust in your own ability to go after the things that you really want in a direct manner, right? And also there can be some, so that's why I go back to, to talking about the importance of you know of really understanding what it is that you want, because it can be difficult, right? So that's why there's that deep dive within is needed, right? Because there can be a lack of self-confidence with this placement, right? And sometimes people with this can feel like they do not deserve the gains. And there can also be a lot of fear of rejection, even criticism, right? So sometimes in the imagination is a big asset here, right? But it's about combining the will and the imagination to have the best potential outcome, right? But to understand once again the difference between intuition and imagination, and to not, really, really go the wrong direction with respect to that. Um, it's very, very sensual, this placement, once again. But sometimes it could even be a bottomless pit in that respect. So important to find a more spiritual type of relationship pattern. And people with this sometimes can, just like get, be almost like there can be like a level of like, addiction. I already talked about like, addiction to fantasy and addiction to they're constantly chasing a new and more complicated fantasy. So it's really about getting in touch with your heart and your true values, and that's when everything comes alive, right? What else? Think, Jesse, think. Oh yeah, there's also this like fear of sexual inadequacy that I've seen with this. And sometimes there's like this I've seen this more in men, but like kind of wanting to overcompensate. And like I remember someone with this who had like a trophy wife. And like I don't know, it's really weird. And it's almost like and she would always like deny him and belittle him and all this stuff. And yeah, it was just really weird. He would like also go behind her back and cheat on her with other women. It's just like, yeah, like, and that was his way of regaining power. So you see like kind of how the Neptune Mars energy can create all this kind of weird behavior. I'm not saying you do that. Not saying you do that. Okay, there's one thing about. Okay, yeah. Also, okay. So with this, if you're doing immoral shit, the guilt and the shame comes back. It like pops up in a very weird karmic kind of like very unusual manner, right? it can even like lead one on like a very like self-destructive path, right? So it's really important with this to be living like in integrity. So yeah. Um But yeah, overall, it's really important not to give your, like to really like not give your power away with this. And you know, sometimes with this, there's passive aggression is a problem, but not when the Mars is in Aries. But like in terms of like passions, you need something that really stirs your imagination, because like the everyday life can feel boring to you, especially to all that Uranus energy, right? So having like a career, something that really gets you going is really important. And yeah, it goes back also to like, yeah, like living out fantasies, living your dream life, right? So it's very artistic, creative, all that stuff, right? But yeah, sometimes people with this I've noticed also are like attracted to people who are unavailable, out of reach people. Um, yeah. And like the whole part about love, like disappoints in love, it improves with age. Because it makes one a very imaginative lover, even though like Aries is like your Venus and your Mars. So like a Venus Aries is someone who's a go-getter in love, right? Even as a woman, they'll be the ones who it's so weird. I swear, like all my clients have Venus and Aries, like probably 50% of them lately. Um, so yeah. But yeah, very like massive, like amazing, like imagination is probably the big thing here, and just don't get sucked into any of that bullshit I talked about. And yeah, lots of like actors have this, singers, entertainers, creative people. So enjoy it, but don't get addicted to shit, and don't lie to yourself. All right. So Venus is only aspected with a conjunction with Mars, so that creates a lot of, that's just a sexy placement. I have it too for a second, but like I do, but yours is closer, and it's in Aries. So it makes the Venus more Marsy and the Mars more Venusy. So it just brings, it's like a yin yang energy that's sexy. Let's be honest. Let's be honest here, people. Let's not talk bad. Let's be honest. It is a very charming, assertive, kind of passionate, it's nice. People of the opposite sex or same sex, whatever floats your boat, tend to fuck with it in a good way. And it just makes it so these Venus, Mars, these two energies that are related to love in a lot of ways are going in the same direction. They want the same things. But sometimes there's too high of expectations, that can lead to, being pissed off. Yeah. But overall, love stuff, it's just, so, as I was saying, like you're here with your North Node in your vertex in the sixth house. So you're here to find peace within yourself, but also like, find peace in the sense of like, okay, I understand my place on the earth. I understand that I can be of service and really be helpful to other people. And also having a creative outlet is super important because Venus rules your North Node. Now, the fact that Venus is in the fifth house with Mars gives you a tremendous urge towards creating, and it's an Aries, right? That's massive. So Black Moon Lilith, though, also there though. I'm just gonna go house to house from now on because yeah. So Black Moon Lilith in Aries, that's like we each have a Black Moon Lilith. That's us at our lowest vibe, right? We all have a lowest vibe. So the Aries ones, they act like fucking childish assholes. They can be a little bit childish, they can be a little bit selfish, they can be a little bit I don't know. Yeah, I think I summed it up pretty well. Not aware of like the fiery impact that they have on the people around them, right? It goes back to that giving and taking. Sometimes they take, and they don't understand that they're doing that. Not saying that's you, because remember, the whole point of Black Moon is to understand, okay, I can take this and I can transform into something way better. So yeah, so it's like about like not understanding the extent to which you're asserting yourself. So the more you can dive into your own creative journey, the better, right? Creative outlets are massive for you. Venus at the 5th house is beautiful, in terms of like expressing yourself, with fun, with fun and with creativity, and also amazing for children. Amazing for children. That's saying that. I said that, yeah, quite a few times. That's crazy. I usually don't say that. Part of fortune, 4th house, it's speaking to in Pisces that you are at your best, your happiest, your flow state when you have a spiritual relationship with yourself, and just with, like with your own self, and just deepening your own spiritual journey in general. So yeah. Yeah, so I wonder how easy it was for you to move away from home early on. A lot of times the sun I see difficult in that sense. But also I wonder how much, like I wonder if you definitely have the chart of someone who could definitely connect to their ancestry, to their bloodline, and that maybe a big part of your life purpose is to make massive changes. Ooh, that actually makes a lot of sense. Make massive changes to differently. And I have so many clients. I attract these clients, right? People who are here to like really, really, really be the game changers, like for their kind of everything related to their family and family cycles. So yeah. So yeah, your 6th house, the fact that Ceres is there with the North Node, you're here to be of service. But it's also a quest in this lifetime to overcome your distrust of change, and finding creative outlets for your very intense emotions, right? To avoid like hitting out at loved ones. And also just like, yeah, overall healing, as I said before, emotional wounds from past lives, right? And a lot of times it's a feeling of being cheated, and you feel that in your soul, and it pisses, it's annoying, right? So it's all about learning to trust the process, and that newfound, like finding that newfound peace and stability in this lifetime. And vertex in the 6th in Taurus is like, deep love of nature. Nature can be your doorway to higher awareness. And animals also can be really, you could have karmic animal friends. Also tantric sex is something that could be good for that. Sound, any kind of sound, music, amazing. And then 6th house, it's really through service, right? Through effective service to others. That's what kind of your initiation into higher levels of consciousness, right? Like right now, my level of consciousness, this is my second reading, it's just like so much higher than it's been, right? So Ceres in Taurus, Ceres sixth house, just liking to care for others by do like the things you do, the little things you do. Whether it's chores, work, health, whatever, and just like service to others. And then in Taurus, you feel cared for and loved and nurtured when you're giving that sense of stability and consistency by the people around you. And being nurtured and nurturing in very practical, hands-on ways. Okay, so love stuff. Chiron in the seventh, in Gemini. So here it's like, yeah, like that kind of pain around the thought processes. Okay, that's one part of it. There's also pain in romantic relationships, and suffering from painful relationship issues, right, and feelings of rejection by partners early on. But then over time, it's like you heal. You have very healing relationships, very healing karmic relationships, right? So that's kind of that. Midheaven and Leo, you really want to shine in your career, and also it's the ninth house, so you really want to learn a lot. You want something that's going to expand your understanding of what truth is, and you want to do great. You want to really shine in your career, right? So yeah. Juno, so love stuff more. So your descendants in Gemini, your Juno is in Libra. So those are both air. So, and one sec. No. Okay, so you have what my last client just had. So you have no Earth in your chart. Little break from what I was about to say. So you have no Earth in your chart, no Virgo, no inner planets in Virgo, no inner planets in Cap or Taurus. Your North Node is in Taurus. So I just had this. I always say that's a sure sign of someone who is on, who has like a advanced soul, right? Why, might you ask? Well, you have no personal planets, so no energies that are helping you with Earth. So what is Earth? Because this is what you're going towards. It's balance. So the more sixth house Taurus, like routine. The more you can try to be consistent. Look, I have no Earth in my chart either. The way I sum it up is like, it's so difficult to wake up day after day and feel that consistency. Like Earth people, they might be a little bit more boring sometimes, not always. Sometimes they're awesome, but like, they're more predictable, right? So they can depend like each day that the variation of their mood is more like this, right? Obviously not all of them. With people like me and you who have no air, it's like, like so hard, but we're super fucking creative and we have all our other stuff, So I just want to add that in there. So getting into Earth, getting into meditation and really trying your best and not being perfectionist about it, but just knowing like I'm going to do my best to be the best I can be in terms of like consistency and blah, 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 and finding out the things that are good for me and the things that are not good for me. So Juno in Libra, descendant in Gem, you definitely want a lover that is well, there's different layers to it. So obviously the Aries and the fire part, someone who's exciting, someone who is an adventure and very, very high sex drive, because that's what you would have, like most likely with Aries Mars. But also, a lover, like a lover, right? Because the Scorpio moon needs that partner to be like their best friend and someone who they can actually get through those barriers that they might have around, around and, like speaking their truth, right? Around breaking through the vulnerability issues, right? But then the Juno in Libra in 11th is, just like speaking to like how friendship is so important in relationships and how balance, right? And really, but also really want to socialize with your partner and join groups and clubs and go to things and do things that, have friendships like with other couples, stuff like that. It's really important, more of a social relationship. But yeah, really like wanting someone who considers you as an equal, where there's that real balance, that real peace and harmony in the relationship, but also like an intellectual connection with the descendant, 10th house ruled by Gemini. And you being an Aquarius rising with Uranus rising, it has, yeah. So overall, like you and your purpose and who you are, like, it's very easy for you to be misunderstood. So you have to be with someone and friends, whatever. And if boundaries have to be made, they have to be made. Like you can't be with people who don't like. I get that people can misunderstand you, but like you have to feel heard. A Scorpio moon, like their emotions can swing back and forth all over the place, so they really do need to feel heard. Also, moon is opposite Chiron. I didn't see that before. And that is more about like emotional pain, usually around the mother. And then a lot of times until that pain is overcome, it can reflect, or there can be like an attraction of partners that parallel that pain. So it's all about facing that deep emotional pain that usually, and think of it as like a teacher, and then you're able to kind of become a healer yourself, right? In whatever respect that means. So okay, 12th house. So best in the 12th in Scorpio, super super like committed to a spiritual path. um yeah, with Saturn there can definitely be some fucked up shit with the father. Even though I said with the mother, it could be both. Who knows? Both, neither. I don't know. I've given up at really trying to like have a rule for that. I just tell you what it could be, but it's so hard. It's so hard to know. With that, I've come to that conclusion. But yeah. So best of 12 pat. Yeah, 12th house. Yeah, it's just like that real dedication, that spiritual way of life. And really wanting to like, yeah, delve into like kind of the, you know, the depths. Best of Scorpio just gives like when you get into a work, like you become obsessed with that work. Um, and yeah, so it really really gives this ability to be super committed to the work that you choose, and really also you really wanting work that gets you deeper, where you have that deep dive into whatever the fuck it is. um and South Node we talked about. 12th house, really lots of karma that you're doing. And the moon we talked about. Yeah, I mean, the moon in 12th house is the born loner, right? They love to be recluse. Sometimes they just want to have their own secret world to retreat to. And a lot of times if they have too public of lifestyle, they feel like they can suffer. So, you know, they take on a lot. You're someone who's a sponge for energy. You take on a lot of energy, negative and positive, from people around you in your environment. So it's really important to know that. And probably prefer to work behind the scenes as much as possible, right? Even like a career that does require some level of seclusion, whether it's hospitals, libraries, whatever the fuck it is. It could be anything. But like you're definitely someone who has that real emotional intensity. And sometimes with Moon and Scorpio, the parents, like there's sometimes some fucked up shit, like lots of drama in the mother's life around the time that that the kid was born. I've heard like the mother not wanting the kid, like drama around that time, like a traumatic birth. Like there's a lot of stuff, right? And usually it's a very possessive and intense mother. So yeah, we talked about Saturn, um, just how shy that can make you and affect the confidence. And yeah, and a lot of times it comes from a lack of warmth and affection from the usually the mother early on. And yeah, it just pushes women to work on their self-esteem. And then Saturn finally, by itself in the 12th, it's just like, yeah, it's like fearing anything hidden. So it's one has to like get past that. And once they do, they can like have like a very serious exploration into the occult and the esoteric and the hidden realms. But before that, they might be like afraid of the dark, or afraid of the dark metaphorically, right? sometimes physically and metaphorically. But sometimes they feel like their own boundaries are constantly threatened, right? So yeah, they really have to like examine the hidden realms and conquer their fears. So yeah, let's see. So then Pallas is in Pisces. That is the open third eye in the fourth house. So that is just like this very meditative mind, that can merge, the ability to merge your mind with the universal mind, right? And being able to heal people through words. So very open third eye, very high intuition. And I think we talked about all of these. Yeah. All right, let me just pop this open. So Child, the asteroid, which I'm not so like, I don't know that much about it. I mean, like, I don't have that much experience with this, so I'm gonna tell you that these asteroids, they don't really matter that fucking much unless they're like right on something. So it's right on your moon, and that would speak to like a childlike innocence, from what I know about it, but I'm no expert on it. So these I've given you the most important things. Now I'm just like looking for fixed stars. Um, there's some I know a lot about. There's some that's very hard to find information about. So I'm just telling you that. Because I'm not one of these naive astrologers that thinks that it matters what house you have a fucking asteroid in. So stupid. Okay, let's see what's up. So Altair's with Jupiter. That's like a very strong, like very leadership asteroid in Aquarius, one of the better ones. One Aquarius. And Altair is all about, let's see, I'm looking up Jupiter conjunct Altair. So it's good for anything spiritual. Um, mm-hmm. Yeah, it doesn't actually give us anything. Let's search Jupiter conjunct Altair. Oh, here. I know it's on Dark Star. No. Well, okay. So yeah, it's very valiant, brave, ambitious, inspirational. It's really like a good star. Um, very ambitious. And yeah, so that on your Jupiter, it's just like a good leader. And let's see. There's also like a sense of like kind of yeah, like life and high honors and stuff like that. So yeah, like a lot like potential honor and stuff of that nature. All right. Um, nothing there. Oh, Regale on the Descendant. And then on the midheaven, anything? Is that Hydra? It is Alphard. So Vega, Regale, and Alphard. Yeah, you're definitely someone who, like, when you get into something, like you can become so obsessed, like when like about like studying something, you know, you can really, really get into it. Real Plutonian energy with Vesta conjunct Pluto and Scorpio. Like, that's some crazy cool stuff. All right, so let's finish with this. So okay. Let's see if we can find anything here. But just so you know, your midheaven is very close to Hydra, which is one of the ancient Babylonian stars related to astrology. So it's right on there. So, you know, midheaven represents career. Well, it's 2 degrees away. But then there's Alphard that's there. No, it's not Alphard. Alphard astrology. So Alphard, let's see if there's anything. Improved health and fame with the help of superiors. A splendid, illustrious life, glorious, mighty, and commanding nature, fame, busy with many activities, bountiful resources, well known or feared in states and regions, prosperity from youth. Yo, it's so annoying. Like obviously that's a great description, but like that doesn't say shit. Like that's like the same definition for so many. So it says this star gives wisdom, musical and artistic appreciation, knowledge of human nature, strong passions, lack of self-worth, blah 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 blah. Yeah, so it's Hydra. So there is that real esoteric knowledge, and the ability to grow and rise to high places. Okay. So yeah. So overall, it's very good on the midheaven, very good for success. Let's just, yeah, it's kind of conclusion. Rigel, Rigel is a very nice star. So Rigel, what are you on? So Rigel conjunct descendants. It says the exact same shit. Well, I guess it's an indication of just like good. A splendid, illustrious life, glorious, mighty, and commanding nature, fame, busy, blah blah blah, bountiful resources. Yo. But Regel is linked to you know, benevolence, honor, riches, happiness, glory. It's, you know, linked to inheritances, legacies, fame. So yeah. So it is oh shit. It is one of the wealth stars, I believe. Rigel, yeah, it is. So having a descendant, it can mean that, you know, you you know, have some wealth in your life, whether it's through your own efforts or through marriage. So alrighty. Beautiful stuff. I love doing this chart reading. So the way that nearly everyone proceeds is that they get the reading, step 1. You already have the follow-up, step 2. You already have it. This is the nail chart. You get this done once. Terminat. Excuse me. So most people, like probably 90%. Oh, now she comes. Come on, birthday girl, tomorrow. Look at the chart. Tell me. Oh, you looked at the. She looked at the palace in Pisces, the like kind of like real like third eye opening part, and she was kind of just wanting me to like tell you like you really, really, really got it, you know, when it comes to that psychic ability. Good job, Esme. I'm happy you came later. But anyways, yeah. So most people, they do the current, they add the current astrology. I would do it for $50 reduction. It's super worth it. It's completely different type of astrology. And this is natal. That is current. So that's like the year plus ahead. So the first hour that you already have is the follow-up. You can just stick to that if you want to, no pressure, obviously. But what most people do, as I said, is that we, and it's not a long wait, it's just like once you finish this and we find the next time I schedule, usually like a few weeks. And we have like around like a 3-hour Zoom session, right? Zoom or call, whatever's better for you. Most people do Zoom for the longer ones, and most people do call for if they just stick to the follow-up. So yeah, the first hour is a follow-up. We go over the nail chart, and then it's a seamless move into the current astrology, where I use every single current astrology resource, skill, talent, not talent. Well, I'm talented at it, but yeah, like every single every single tool, there's the word, that I use, right? Transits. Let's say your sun right now is at 0. Oh, wait, you are an Aquarius. What degree again? Well, no, you're okay. You're good. But yeah, like let's say like instead of your Jupiter being 1 Aquarius, your sun was 1 Aquarius. Well, Pluto would be, conjunct your sun transit, right? That and a million different things. That's transits, progressions, solar arc, solar return chart, which is the chart that we each have for this year. I do a lot of stuff. I also teach astrology one-on-one. I don't talk about that much, but I love doing it. I have packages. Probably the best value that people can really find right now for like a one-on-one class. Like, are you kidding me? And yeah, so, and I do astrocartography, I do compatibility, I do a lot of stuff. So just let me know about if you want to add the current astro and set that up. $50 reduction. I forget the price on my site, but it's a great deal compared to what it should be. So yeah, thank you so much. I appreciate you, and I hope you enjoy. Ciao.